All right. We have some joining. That's good. I have somebody from horsemanship that's good joining. And that's stations. I don't have anyone for Mega Room yet.
We don't have, oh, that's fine. But Deborah, do you feel like we have most of your people who are going to be involved in scoring or judging here?
Well,
Because we could start with your phase.
all right, we have three of us, four of us. So
All right.
that's fine because then they can pair up with someone else. So that'll be most of the
We
station.
can always do this again next week, a couple days before, to refresh everybody's memory or to hit somebody who wasn't able to be here tonight. So let's go ahead and get started with barn then.
Okay.
It's one of our most complicated phases for scoring. So this is for those of you that are doing like stations or written test. Yours isn't going to be nowhere near this complicated. So don't panic at this point. And this isn't complicated. There's just a lot to it. We're doing a 1-round rally, which means each phase is doing 1 round. And a round is defined in barn as 3 stalls of individual questions and 1 team stall. On the score sheet, has everyone seen the score sheet that USPC provides? It kind of looks like this. You've seen this before? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Okay. So in the column that says pin, that's where you enter that -1 if that team member is not wearing their Pony Club USPC pin. Barn is the only phase that will have a footwear column because they're required to wear appropriate barn shoes when they go to barn, even if they're not around horses. It's just a representation of what they would wear to the barn. So they are not allowed to compete if they don't have the proper footwear. What the ramifications of that, if that happens, I don't know the exact details on that. That's Nancy Chamberlain would get involved as technical delegate, and I'm sure we would address that if and when it comes up. The Q number is for the question number, and if it's a multi-part question, we'll get into more detail on what exactly that is and what it looks like when we go over the score sheet. The V column is for where you would enter the level of question that they're going to that they've asked and the point value for that question. So V stands for value, and P is points. So that's where the points awarded gets entered.
Lynn?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at my score sheet, but I don't see those.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
when
see
we
those
get
on
to
it.
yeah, they're not, but they will be on the
Okay.
copies that you get at quiz. I
Okay.
didn't have time to get that all done before tonight's presentation, but I've gone in and I'm modifying that so that you'll have those things.
Great.
If we jump over back to the score sheet, this first, oh, you can't see my cursor.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, can you? Okay, so this first column within the stall that has the diagonal lines in it, that's the Q number box.
Okay.
And this second box is the value box. And it will be on the sheets that I provide to you on the day of the rally. Okay. So the next thing we need to kind of talk about, and this applies to classroom as well, but those are the only two phases that are involved in this, is conference. A novice D team or a member of a novice D team is allowed to ask their teammates for help. After the question's been asked of them and read through twice, if they don't know or aren't sure of the answer, they're allowed to say, "May I confer?" And if they do, the value of the points is cut in half. So the value in the box actually stays the same, but the points that they'll be awarded if they get the question correct will only be half of what the original value was. And to indicate that the competitor conferred, we will put a C in that point box or that column labeled P. And again,
Okay.
we'll see more of that
Lynn?
as we go on. Yeah.
I don't, maybe you're probably gonna get to this, but that was the problem that, remember you and I had last year, that some people were already doing the 50%. And then we had to go back through and make sure.
Which is why we're doing this, because we're going to show them how to put
Okay.
what the original value was and then what the awarded points were.
Okay, okay, perfect, perfect.
It'll be
Thank you.
clear as mud as once we get
Yay.
here.
All right, I was like, oh, I
No.
remember having this being something that you and I had discussions about. Okay.
Oh yeah,
I'll be
we went
quiet.
round and round trying to figure this out. This will be so much more clear for us, and we'll be able to get the scores out.
Awesome, awesome. I'll be quiet.
Much quicker is the plan anyway. All right, so for an example, if they're in the first stall and the very first question for the D1, let's say, was identify 4 parts of the horse. It is obviously a 4-part question. And according to Miss Deborah's question bank and answer sheet, for 4 parts, if they get all 4 correct, they'll earn 5 points. If they get 3 of those 4 correct, they get 3 points, 2 points, 1 point. You get 1 extra point for getting all the questions correct in that multi-part question. Now, if it was a D that was doing this multi-part question, if they got all 4 parts correct after they conferred with their team, it's only worth 2.5 points awarded. But the value, the original value is still 5. So if we look then at our score sheet and we see our first little competitor, Little Miss Polly Pony Rider, she can you see, is that big enough? Can you all see that, or is it too tiny? Anyway,
It's fine.
Okay, this very first question, in the first stall, you always get whatever your certification is. So they don't have the opportunity in that first stall to ask for a higher level question. They can't ask for a D2 or a D3 question or, the 2 above. They have to take whatever their level that they're competing at. And I say it that way because we'll go into confirming levels a little bit more later. So in this particular case, Polly's a D1. So she's getting a D1 question. She gets the very first one. So we put a number 1 in the upper corner of this Q box that's not labeled, but we know it's going to be a Q number as we move on. And it happens to be a 4-part question. So it's a multi-part question. So we put an M4 in there so we know that it's multi-part with 4 parts. Are y'all with me so far? She's a D1 and she's getting a D1 question. So we put a D1 in the top of the value box. And according to the question bank, this particular question is worth 5 points. So the value is 5 points. Well, the question is read to her twice. And she decides she's not sure of the answer, so she asks for permission to confer with her teammates. And she does, and they together come up with the correct answer. So in this particular example, she gets 2.5 points because they conferred on this 5-point question. You only get 50% on the original value when you confer. Understood? Are we making sense still? Yeah? Okay. So little Miss Devon Daredevil here, she gets a D2 question, 5 points. It's a multi-part, 2-part question. So she also gets question number 1 of the D2 list. So D2 1, multi-part 2, value is 5 points. She gets them both right without conferring, so there's no C here. And she gets awarded all 5 points. And then Susie's up next. She's a D2. She gets question number 2. It's a multi-part, 4-part question. Value according to the sheet is 5. Possible points. She gets all 5 or all 4 parts of the question correct, so she earns all 5 points. And the same for Mr. Alex here at the bottom. Multi-part, 4 parts. He's a D3. Question number 1. The value is 5, and he answered all 4 correctly, so he has points of 5. And if we do it this way, it's really clear to anybody who looks at this what exactly happened in that stall. Right? We know who conferred. We know who answered all the parts right. If Devon here only got 1 part out of the 2-part question here correct, she'd only have 2 points. Right? Because if we look on that sheet, it says right on there that if you get 1 of the 2, it's worth 2 points. You get both of them, it's worth 5. So you don't have to know how to break down the points. It's broken down for you. All right, well, they finished this round. The stall judge asks if there's any inquiries on their scores. They don't have any, so we move on. This is the point in time that the team captain has to say, we have a question about one of these and how it's scored. It's not going to be resolved at this point. It's just going to be noted. All right, so the stall judge is not responsible for resolving an inquiry. You're just there with your answer key, and according to what your answer key says, you're making a judgment of whether that's a correct or incorrect answer. And if the kids don't agree with that or want to inquire against that, that's great. You just make a note on this score sheet that they have a question and they want to ask the phase coordinator about it, which will happen at the end of the phase. So moving on to stall 2.
Lynn, I
The
have a
same kind
question
of-
for you there. What role does the barn judge play, like the chief barn judge in that? Anything at that point?
Not at this point. Not unless
Okay.
it's so confusing that the stall judge is in total lack of what to do next. You know, obviously, if they need some guidance in where to go or how to do something, then they can go to the phase coordinator to get that answer. But to answer the inquiry, that's not handled at this stage.
Yeah, no, not for the inquiry,
Yeah.
not before. Okay. All right.
Right.
Thank you.
So yeah, so if the stall judge has a question that needs to be answered right there and then, obviously I would get the phase coordinator involved, but most cases it can wait until the whole thing is resolved.
So who
Or
is
the
a stall
phase is complete.
judge?
Pardon me?
Who would be a stall judge?
Anybody, whoever is at that table or in that stall with the
Okay.
kids asking those questions. That's
Okay.
the stall judge. You're the phase coordinator, so you're the one who will
Yes.
get all the inquiries and make the determinations on whether or not their inquiry is valid or invalid.
Okay.
It says the stall judge explains the stall and competition begins. You know, you'll have a timer in the central location.
Yeah, now I didn't set this up to go through the process and how to run the stall. We can do that
I
if you
know.
want to, but that's not what my focus was for this presentation.
Correct. And I'm going to interrupt you again and then you can mute me. Stalled judges grade the competitor's work and returns the score sheet to the competitor.
Right, and so that's how they know whether or not they have an inquiry. They get to
Mhm.
look at this sheet, and of course, the stall 2 and 3 and team column won't be here. At the end of stall 1, these will still be blank. Right? Because we haven't done those yet. It'll just be
Thank
the
you, Lynn.
stall 1 that'll be filled out. And at the end of stall 1, you'll hand it back to the team. They'll take a look at it. If they don't have any questions, they're excused and they can move on to the next stall, and they take this piece of paper with them. If they have an inquiry, they can let them know that they have a question on Devin's question. And if that were the case, like, okay, let's move on to stall 2 for a second. So it's the same kind of thing. You put the level that they asked for, because now they can go above their rating, their level, their certification level. Tell I'm old school, I still call it ratings. So she's gone up a level here for D2. So now this question, sorry, that she's got a D2 question. She gets question number 1. It is a multi-part, 2-part question. And you notice I put the value here is 10. That's because on the question bank, the question was worth 5 points for the 2 parts if you get them both correctly. But because she's 1 level above her horse management level, she gets an extra 5 bonus points. And that's true regardless of the question. It's a 5-point bonus for 1 level above and 10-point bonus for 2 levels above. So 5 points per level up, if they get it right, of course. So in stall 2 here, she's got a D2 question. She gets question number 1, multi-part, 2 parts for a value of 10 points. Questions read twice. She kind of freezes under pressure. She's just a young D1 and wants to confer with her teammates. And she does, but she only got 1 of those 2 correct when she answered. And when someone confers, whoever's question that is, in this case, Polly is the one that has to answer the question. No one else from the team can provide the answer. They can confer amongst themselves and give Polly the answer, but she's the one that has to present the answer to the judge because it's her question. And that's the same for classroom as well, if we have any classroom people on board. So in this case, I thought it might be prudent to put a note down here in the remarks that in stall 2, competitor number 11 on question D2-1, they answered 1 of the 2 correct since it was multi-part, and that's why they only had 2 points. Because according to the question bank, if you get only 1 point right, you get 2 questions, but it's a bonus round. So it's 4 points, but it's conferring, so it's only 2 points. Oh, wait a second. I have to think that through some more. It's a 5-point bonus for going up a level. So it should be 2 points plus 5 points is 7. And then half of that for 3.5. So it should be 3.5 in here. Did I lose everybody at the bakery with that process?
Yes, but what I would say, Lynn, I would ask you, if they run into issues like that, can they just kind of write that on the back of the answer sheet, like this person, like you just did here, the remarks?
Yeah, definitely. Also,
We might not
I've got
have enough room for remarks is my point.
right. Yeah, I would start in this remarks section And then,
Yeah.
make it, if you fill this remarks section full, see over, see backside.
And please put your
I'm shining a
name,
light in your
that-
eyes this whole time. Now you can't see me.
please put your name there too, like, we'll figure out how to make sure, because Lynn can then call you or check in with you for clarification later.
Right.
So-
At
so-
the end, I have my phone number and my email listed. And I would like, if all of you, when you know what your designated jobs are gonna be, well, if you're scoring, send me a text message with your name and phone number, so that way I've got everybody. And if, Chrissy and I have questions, we'll be able to get to you easily rather than trying to figure out where barn is and which stall, who's in which stall. And that would make life a lot easier if we could share text messages. And then if you have a question on the scoring and all too, just make a note in the back and then ask Deborah. And if she is unable to clarify it, ask Chrissy or I. Chrissy's going to be assisting in scoring again this year.
So I just have a question. So you said
Sure.
if they go up a level, that question's value doubles. If they go up 2 level,
no,
they
it's
get
not-
5 points. Sorry, they get 5.
Right.
So if they
Right.
go up a level, they get 5 points. If they go up 2 levels, they get 10 extra bonus points if they get that question correct. But
Right.
I'm just going to go back to that 2-part question. So basically,
Yeah, it gets really complicated.
let's say she didn't confer on that, right? But she got one of the 2 questions correct.
Then she would
On
get the 2 points available for getting one of the 2 correct,
And
plus
then she
the
would get
5 bonus
bonus.
points. So it would be a 7.
okay.
She would get 7 points out of the possible 10. So instead of the 2 being there, you would see a 7,
And
and
then
you wouldn't have the C for confer.
if she conferred, it'd be 3.5 because you're going to take the 7 and divide that in half.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
You've got it. Yeah, it makes sense once you understand the process, but when we're compounding multiple part questions on top of conferring, on top of not getting all the questions right, and it just makes it complicated, and as long as we're consistent with how we do it, then I think we're golden, and when it is complicated like this, make notes, just make a note what you did and how you came up with that number, and then especially if they're going to inquire on that, it'll help you then, if they do have an inquiry on that, to justify to Deborah why you did it that way. And so she can make a determination of whether it's been scored correctly or not. And then, and if there's a whole process for inquiry, it can go beyond Deborah. You're not this end all say all, sorry, Deborah. for the barn
That's
page.
okay.
The process continues from there, but this is what they call the verbal inquiry, and there is a form, Deborah, that I'll get to you on quiz day that you fill out for any of the verbal inquiries that you get, so that we've got documentation on those
So
too.
is that for all of them or just the ones that I didn't answer correct? They weren't happy with my answer. And
It's for
sent-
everybody.
Okay,
For any verbal inquiries, we want to document them, so we know how they've been resolved, and we can make sure then in scoring that we made any corrections that needed to be corrected on the final score sheets. All right. Any questions? And then the last phase. Okay, so let's say on this stall 2, they didn't agree, after everybody had a chance to answer their question, they wanted to do an inquiry on Alex's question. So I put a little I there. Where's my cursor? Come on, cursor. The key down here at the bottom says to put an IR in the box for an inquiry. If you make your eyes like this, where it's clearly an I, that's fine with me, because it's such a small box, it's gonna be hard to put all these letters in there. I guess their concern is this I looking like a 1. And so it could be like a stacked 10 here, 1, 0, if it was just a, just the line up and down for the 1. So if you're going to mark the inquiry, either put an IR like they have in the key, or if you make the uppercase I with the top and the bottom line so that it's clearly an I, then that's fine too. Whatever works best for you. Oh, and quick note, these ones that don't have a multi-part note in them, they were just a single 1 answer question. There were no multiple parts. So you either get it wrong or you get it right. So in that case, you just leave it blank. And then
Give
the
us an
team question,
example of that.
let me pull out Deborah's little questions here. So, and it'll say on this, on your question bank. Let's pick. Do you mind if I disclose one of the HA questions from your barn, Deborah?
No,
For this
I'm
group?
fine. I'm fine.
Okay. So another example might be, what is another name for a cannon bone? This is a 1-part question. There is no multiple answers that need to be provided. It's just one other name.
So would that be
Just-
worth the 5 points then? We just write
Yes, so
5
that
in there?
one answer would be worth the 5 points.
Yeah, okay.
And she's got it all nicely detailed out here on your question booklet that you'll get on that morning. So it lists the questions, and then you'll want to give the kids the information on that this is a 2-part question. 1 part answered correctly is worth 2 points, both parts 5 points, and that's all here. It's like a script that you can just follow. She's made it super easy for you. And I don't know, are you planning on having a scorer and a judge in each stall?
I'm having 2 people in each stall. So
Okay,
a scorer and a judge.
that'll make life a lot easier than the 1 person trying to do it all. So the scorer can focus on making sure that they get all the pieces of the puzzle in here, and the judge can focus on getting the questions and answers. Any questions on this? We covered a lot of material, a lot of information on this tiny little piece of paper.
Lynn, did you say that they took the score sheet with them?
Yes. So when you start, it is wise to have the team look at because it'll be pre-labeled like this, and it may not look exactly like this one, but it will have the competitors' names on it, the team name, the team number, their division, and their section, and their names and horse management certifications and their competitor numbers. The rest of it will be blank. So none of this handwritten stuff will be here when you get it. So the very first thing I would do in that very first stall is have them verify that their names are correct. And you can see if their penny numbers are right, because they should have their pennies on with their numbers. And then this is a good time for you to make a mental note on who's got their pins on and who's got their right footwear on, and make those notes once they give the paper back to you. And then you keep the paper during the stall and make your notes on it. If they have an inquiry before they leave, you hand them the piece of paper, they take it with them to the next stall.
Okay, how does it get?
At the very end, at the team question here, once you do the team stall, the very last stall. And what I did here is I just wrote, there's only 1 question for the team question, but the highest rated competitor is a D3. And was I right in that assumption, Deborah, that that's the question that they'll get, is their highest rated member? for their team question?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Because when it's a mixed team like this,
Yes,
since it's
that answer is yes. It's the highest member of the team.
Okay,
okay.
there you go.
Okay, so I wrote in this blank space that we asked them the D3 team question, and it happens to be a multi-part 4-part question. And they got all 4 parts of the question correct, so they earned all 5 points. But you don't have the question number and the value number column for this team question. But again, I would write down if it is multi-part up here in the box. And then if you need to make any notes about exceptions, either in the remarks or on the flip side. And then once they've completed this round, answered all 3 individual questions and the team question, then they can say they can want an inquiry on this. This is their last chance to get an inquiry only on this team question. They've already had their opportunity to inquire on the previous 3. Once they leave that stall, they can no longer inquire on that stall. So before they leave their stall with that little piece of paper, they can no longer say, oh, I want to inquire on this one. Because that's their opportunity for that has left the building. Does that make sense?
And basically, like, a note is just kind of made, and that inquiry is made during the inquiry period, the one that was marked at that time, right?
Right.
It's not
all you
addressed in
do
that
is
moment.
mark it. All you do is mark it at this point. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So let's see. What do you see my cursor when it's down here?
Mhm.
This is where
Yeah.
you can see my cursor, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. So at the end of stall 2, they had a question on Alex's question. So they wanted to file an inquiry for this one. So the scorer put an I in the box. But they do this before they ever leave stall 2. Because once they have this little piece of paper in their hand and they walk out the door, the opportunity to inquire is over.
So they
But
may
the
not know that, so we should ask them, is that correct?
Yes, definitely. Now, for the older kids especially, they are to be held responsible. They're supposed to be responsible for knowing the rules, so they should know this. But that doesn't mean we need to be mean about it. Part of the table judge's job is at the end of the questions for their stall is to say, are there any inquiries? To give them that opportunity. So it's not like we're gonna, let's let them sneak out the door without asking them. We're not trying to catch them or bust them. But it's also not your responsibility to make sure that it happens. If that makes sense. But again, with these little ones, with the little D2s and the little D1s, a lot of them is their first time doing quiz. It's certainly not going to hurt to say, you need to, if you have a question on any of these, you need to let us know that you have that inquiry now, because once you leave the stall, you won't be able to have an official inquiry. If you have a question on what the answer is, I'll answer the question, but it's not going to change the score anyhow. If that makes sense. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions for Barn, we can move on. Do we have who do we have here? Which group should we do next?
So no more inquiries, right? If we leave there, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's right. If we leave Barn, you can't ask any more questions. No.
I think we could do classroom and let's put it mega room. I don't have anyone for mega room
Okay.
here. So we could do classroom or stations. Ariel's here and she has someone
Okay.
from her center.
All right.
And written, I don't see anyone for written, but that's pretty darn easy. So
Right. All right. Well, let's go ahead. If since we just pounded a whole lot of information in our brains and it's very classroom's very similar to Barnes, let's go ahead and do stations only because give our brains a break. All right, this is pertinent for every phase. And I mentioned earlier that some members may not be competing at what their current course management certification is. If they are wanting to compete as a D3 in championships in July, they need to compete as a D3 at our qualifying rally. That doesn't mean they have to be a D3 right now. So we do have a few members that want to compete at the next higher level or next higher certification than what they're currently at. So Nancy has gone through and changed their course management level in our database so that their name tag's going to say what level they're competing at. For example, if we have a D2 who wants to compete as a D3, her label's going to say D3, even though she's now a D2. So it might get confusing for them. I need you guys to know as a scorer that if they're telling you it says D3, but I'm really only a D2, that the question to them would be, yes, but are you planning to compete as a D3 at championships in July? And if they're saying yes, then they need to compete as a D3 now, even though they're a D2. That's important only because if they're a novice, they won't get that bonus points if they are asked a D3 question. D3 is what their level is for this competition. So they only get the point value for the question for the same level, the level that they're at. If they want the bonus points, they have to go up to C1 in this case, or C2. Make sense?
Yes, and they also, like
So-
Roberta in classroom, they've been told and coached, and I'll remind them again, I am a D3. They don't say I'm a D2 or, operating as a D3 or whatever. Everything for that day is that higher certification level, and it would be clearly marked. We do have a handful of, probably about 5 of them that went from D1 to D2 and a D2 to a D3.
Right. I just want you to be aware of it so that if they tell you, I know it says I'm a D3, but I'm not, I'm only a D2. Now if you didn't know that we intentionally put them in as a D3, they might not be scored accurately and be getting bonus points when they shouldn't be. So make sure that you are checking those certification levels. And if they question you on it, the reason behind it not being correct is that they're trying to qualify at that next level up because they're planning on taking their tests sometime between now and championships. So before you start any station or stall or classroom, check your score sheets and make sure that you've got the right set of score sheets for the group of kids that are in front of you. And then check each competitor before you get started. Everybody's got their name tag on, they're wearing their penny, they have their USPC pin on. If they don't, you put a -1 in that pin box on the score sheet, and everybody needs to be wearing their medical armband or their bracelet with their medical history and information on it. And that applies to everybody, not just stations or barns. So stations compared to barns, as far as scoring is concerned, is way simpler. One round is 5 stations, and their score sheet looks like this. Sorry for the quality on this. I ran out of time and wasn't able to get the cleaned up copy in here. But it's basically just the team name, the team number, what division they're in, what section they're in. In our previous example, it was the Twin Fall Twilights or something like that. Team number 1, they were Novice D, and the section was Palomino. And this that's been cut off here actually says stations. And we're only going to be using these first 5 boxes because we're doing just one round, which by definition in the rule book is 5 stations for this phase. And you can ignore, stations can ignore this section here that says written test because they're not doing the written test. So according to whatever your question banks are and the point, you don't have to keep track of point values. The kids don't confer. They don't have multiple parts. It's all very cut and dry with the scoring, and you just put whatever points they earned at each station in the little boxes. I don't even care if you total it or not. If math isn't your thing and you don't want to total them, that's perfectly acceptable as far as I'm concerned. You know, as long as these 5 squares right here are legible, that's all I'm looking for. And then if you would, I would put your name someplace on the form so that I know who to go to if there's any questions. And that's true for Barnes too. If you could, you know, put your name on it as, you know, the judge.
Lynn,
And then the
because, you know,
same,
it's new for me too, but there'll be a judge for each one, so there'd be 5
Station.
names on there.
and this one, Ariel, it's totally up to you. But depending on how complicated your stations are, I don't know if you require having, you know, 2 people at each station, a judge and a scorer. This one I'd be a little more comfortable with saying it's okay if the judge scores it on the sheet as well.
Yeah,
that's up to
last year we did fine with just 1 person per room, and they just like the question, it was simple enough to break down if they got it right or wrong to just total things up. It's like, okay, each correct one's worth 2, so it's just how many correct times 2
Right.
or
So,
something.
yeah, that's totally up to you and how you want to handle that, but I'm comfortable with however you want to do that. The same thing with inquiries is if there's any inquiry at the end of each station, you make an I in that little box. It's not actually addressed at that point in time. It's done at the very end of that particular round of teams that you have. And they will all go to you as the coordinator will be the one to address the verbal inquiries. And again, there's a form that I'll give you to record all the verbal inquiries. And I'll also provide you with forms at each station or each phase for if they want to escalate it to the next level, you know, the paperwork for them to fill out to take it the next step up if you end up with somebody who wants to do that. And then something I didn't mention in Barnes, but it's true for Barnes as well, is the team captains, and we encourage you to do this too, have the team captains sign off on their score sheet, someplace on their score sheet. Where to go? Here. It can be anywhere on here. I don't really care where. And basically what that's by the team captain signing that, they're saying they accept those scores and that they have no further inquiries. And that would be after you address any inquiries that they have on any of these stations. Because once they sign off and leave the room, they've accepted the answers to those inquiries unless they've filled out the paperwork to take it to the next level. Easy peasy. You got an easy one for scoring. Any questions? No? All right. Well, as far as I'm concerned, Ariel, you and your volunteer are excused to go unless you want to listen in to me babble on about scoring other phases. Bye. All right. Let's tackle classroom, shall we? There's got to be an easier way to navigate here. All right, so for classroom, 1 round is 5 individual questions. Are you seeing a pattern here? Okay, pin, in that pin column, you'll enter a -1 if they're not wearing their USPC pin. The Q number is just like in Barnes, the question number on top. And if you do have multiple parts, you would indicate that on the bottom half of that box. V is for value of the question, and P is the points awarded. Again, only novice D teams. Even if it's a novice D that's on a combined novice D junior team, they're not allowed to confer. Because they don't have only novice D members to confer with. So unfortunately, even if they're a novice D, if they're not on a novice D only team, conferring is not an option for them.
We have 20 teams and 5 are novice Ds.
Are novice,
Just for
and those
reference.
are the only teams that can confer. Again, the value will stay as that original point value, and that's going to help you determine what the awards are once they do answer the question. The points earned or awarded will be 50% of that original value, and we need to put a C in that points box so that we know that they conferred. This is what the classroom sheet looks like, very similar to the barn. And you're going to fill it out exactly like you did the barn. This part with the names and the competitor numbers and their HM levels will be filled out for you, along with the team and team number, division, and section across the top. So this is the column where you'll put the pin. If they're not wearing their Pony Club pin, you put a -1 in that box. And then obviously, since we're only doing 5 rounds, 5 groups of questions, we won't be using these 2 columns, 6 and 7. So Savannah's not here, is she? I don't know if Savannah's with us today or not.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm kind
Christina's.
of on for her.
Okay.
I know my video's
So-
not on. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Now it is.
She's done it before, so I'm not too worried about her, but
Yeah.
for scoring purposes, it's important that she read the question number when she reads the question, and you read the question twice and all of that. So that way they can record the question number in this Q number box.
Okay.
I briefly went through the bank of questions, and I didn't see any multiple part questions. We talked about this earlier today. I
Yeah.
didn't see any multiple part questions for classroom at all. That doesn't mean there's none there. I just didn't see them.
Right.
So if
I'll tell her
one
to skip them. I'm just kidding.
well, unfortunately, you're supposed to do them sequentially. So they've been supposedly have been randomized already. So they encourage you to do them in order so that you're not trying
But per
accidentally
section, right?
repeating it.
One round is all one section for all levels.
Correct. You don't
Yeah.
bounce around sections.
Right.
Correct. So for those of you who may not know what she's referring to, the question bank is divided up into categories. You have a horse knowledge category, you have a stable management category, you have nutrition and conditioning category. I think there's a farrier category, maybe. I don't know what they all are, but there's different categories, and each round will be a different category. And it doesn't, for all the levels, it doesn't matter what level they're doing. And it should be consistent between the Ds and the Cs, Christina. So like if they're doing horse management in round 1, it should be horse management in all the classroom groups.
Right.
round one.
Exactly. For round
Okay.
1.
Or horse
And then round
knowledge or
2.
whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Okay.
Leah has
How
a
many
question.
rounds?
Question. Sorry.
5.
Okay.
There's 5 rounds. So each person is going to get to answer 5 questions.
I have a quick question. So
Sure.
the example score sheet you showed for barn had kids at different levels, and a couple of the kids asking to confer. I think there was a C1 on that team, but then for classroom, you said only if everybody on the team is a novice can they confer. So is it different for classroom then than it is for
No.
barn?
No.
Okay.
Let me pull up the sheet for barn here.
Okay. Oh,
This kiddo is actually a D3 and he's under 12. So, but he can ask up to a C2 question for bonus points. So
got
that's
it.
why we had
Okay.
C questions, not
All
because
right.
he was a C member.
Okay. So
But
anybody
this
that's a
particular
D
kiddo
level-
is, I'm sorry?
Oh, so anybody that's a D level is considered a novice.
No,
No, okay,
no.
all right.
11 and under
11 and
is
okay,
considered
sorry.
novice. But you don't need to know their age because you see up here the division number, the division name will tell
Okay.
you what group
Okay.
they are. So this one is a novice D only team. The other thing you might see would be novice/junior D. That they cannot confer either.
Okay.
But it's kind of nice to remind them when they get in these phases what they are, because I would wager that half these kids don't even know what they're like, if they're novice or if they're whatever in the world everything else is now, you know?
Especially the little ones. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, just like say, just a reminder, Team Appaloosa can confer because you're novice Ds or whatever.
Yeah, or even
Because
though
some of
you're
them will be
novice
mixed
D,
and they'll think they get to confer, but they can't if they're on a
can't.
mixed team. So yeah, it's good to remind them.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
And in your
Oh, of
phase
course.
binders that Chrissy and Lynn and such are putting together, you'll have the schedules, you'll have what division they're in, and anytime you see a novice D by itself, it can. Not a novice junior, so just, it'll be really clear when you see all the paperwork.
Perfect.
Right. So the rules are the same when it comes to conferring, and the only phases that can confer are classroom and barn. Stations and is already a team effort, so there's no conferring involved. And everything else is individual. No, there's another one that's team. Is Mega Room team? I don't remember. Anyway, classroom. So
Mega Room is
basically,
all individual, just so you know.
right. There's no team question for classroom. Unless
No,
you're
sorry, for a Mega Room.
Oh, okay. I know stations is team. So for classroom, it will be the same thing, but your sheet won't look quite this blank. This information, like I said before, will be filled out for you like it was on the Mega Room sheet. And the same with the team information across the top. And again, if it's a wholly novice D team, it'll say novice D here and only novice D. It won't have novice junior D or junior senior C or anything like that. It'll just say novice D. And if it does say novice D here, then this group is allowed to confer. But it's the same thing, -1 in the pin column if they're not wearing their USPC club pin. Question number from the bank that the judge or do they still call them quizmasters? In my day, they called them quizmasters. No, that's a shame. That's, it's a title of honor. Anyway, the question number would go here. Shouldn't have any multiple part questions, but in case they run across one, if you do, it would go here. The value is here. And for classroom, if I remember correctly, the value is 5 points per question. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then it's the same 5-point bonus for 1 level up and another 5 points for 2 levels up. So a total of 10 for 2 levels. And you just record them in these first 5 rounds, just like we did for the barn. You put a little C next under the point column or the P column. If they confer, it's 50% of what the value is. And it does have this little cheat sheet down here at the bottom to help remind you what all the little coding means. At the end of each question round, the judge will ask if there's any inquiries. If there are, we're just going to make a notation that there was a question on, or there was an inquiry on this one question and put it in that P box. And then we'll move on to round 2. And all the inquiries will be addressed at the end. If there's any spectators in the room, the spectators will be excused. And then the inquiries will start with the classroom judge. And if they don't have any inquiries, I highly recommend that you have those teams sign off just to state that they accept the scores as they are on the sheet. and have them leave the classroom. It'll keep classroom moving more efficiently if you can do that. And the same thing without, I think that's why they've moved to addressing the inquiries all at the end rather than after each round. Any questions? Okay, so for written test, the only thing I have really is the kids are or have the potential for earning an extra 5 bonus points for the correct attire. And this is just once per the competition, not once per phase. So we decided to throw this in on top of the written phase. That we thought that would be the easiest. We're going to put an extra little sticker on the test where whoever's doing this written test, that coordinator, whoever's helping hand out those tests, they can review that particular individual and check. We'll have a list of what the requirements are for meeting that correct attire qualification and whether or not they've earned that 5 bonus points. So that's the only thing special for scoring for written. Otherwise, it's simple. You have a key, and is it right? Is it not right?
Okay,
you get
I do
2
have,
points.
I have a comment to make on that because I did go through each and every test from last year. And I would like it if there's somehow we could have a uniform X if it's wrong and then leave it alone. Because whoever scores it afterwards, I did find some discrepancies.
Oh, okay.
And so if we could maybe have a uniform way of correcting the tests, that would be I think beneficial to whoever's scoring, because I did see,
Got it.
you know, many different colors of pens, many different you know, handwriting. So there are many different people scored tests last year.
Right.
And if
Well,
we can have a uniform way.
the good news is we're not going to have that many people scoring written tests this year since we're doing it in sections.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay,
yes,
good.
so that's a plus. And then also what we can do is we'll ask that they use a red pen and that they go through and put an X through the question number.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, great feedback. I love it. But I will
And then
add that
do
to
they
the notes
put-
here before we send it out.
Do they, Lynn, just when they're grading and stuff, do they go ahead and write the correct letter number next to it?
They can. That would be good feedback for the members.
Yeah, okay.
And
And
then
then
it's the
this-
same.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the same thing as once they go through, the tests are scored, they are allowed to go back. See, this is where I would like the tests, but I don't know what this is going to look like. We'll have to talk about this more, Nancy. I would like to actually get the tests so that I can score them and record them. Oh no, they're going to record them. Never mind. Rewind, erase.
Okay.
At this point, they'll record the scores on the score sheet that's combined with stations, wherever it is. Okay, I've got myself to a screen where I can't figure out where I am. Anyway, they'll record it on the score sheet. There it is. No, it's not. This part. They'll record them on this part, and then they'll give them back to the kids so they can review them, see what they missed, what they got wrong, whether they have any inquiries. And again, this is their one chance at the written phase to determine whether or not they have an inquiry. If they do, then they'll come back and put an I next to whichever team member it is and their score, that they have an inquiry. And then those have to go to Nancy, I would assume, Nancy Chamberlain as the TD. Have we ever had inquiries on quiz or on written test?
I thought we did last year. There was something that was worded odd, but I don't remember. Okay, Lynn,
But yeah,
we can talk procedure later because I don't understand.
right. I'm pretty sure it would go to Nancy, but if there aren't any inquiries, then the team captain signs off on the sheet and they turn the tests back in. They don't get to keep those, but they can review them and go on their merry way. Yeah, so the score sheets, the only time they keep their score sheets is when they're moving from one area to another, like in mega room, they'll from one table to the next table, or barn from one station to the next station, or stall to the next stall, and stations from station to station. Otherwise, they do not leave that phase with that piece of paper ever. We keep all of those.
What was the question about Nancy? I mean, the TD questions?
Oh, it's like if they have an inquiry unwritten, who actually addresses that question? It's
On
not the
written
phase
test?
coordinator in this instance, because they didn't
Right,
come up with these questions. So I'm thinking
Right.
it's the technical delegate, but I need to double check.
which means they would have to do a written protest and just do that.
There's no verbal inquiry?
Well, verbal inquiry, but you're saying that they can't really ask the phase coordinator because the phase coordinator
Right.
didn't write the question because National did.
Right.
I mean,
So
I
I
guess
just-
the written inquiry is kind of to save time for the TD to have to hop around everywhere. You'd have to go fetch the TD. Either way, a
I
written
will-
inquiry is still going to get addressed by the TD.
Of course they can
right.
do an inquiry, but I know Nancy's gone through every question on there and stuff like that. Not that that prevents for an inquiry, but it might
Sometimes the
help.
wording is funny. Sometimes it'll be a correct answer that's just not included, you know? I don't know.
Right, she's tried to eliminate all of those. So
That's good.
she's in classroom especially, she removed a few questions that were a little ambiguous.
The worst
So-
question ever was 2 years ago, and the question in classroom was, is a saddle pad required in a dressage rally? And the answer was no.
Yeah,
My kids
yeah.
were
You
up in
don't you don't
arms.
have to have a saddle pad under your saddle. Why you wouldn't want one, I don't know.
Yeah, it was really an IQ test, not a. I'm just kidding. Who's smart here? Anyway,
All right, that's, since we don't have anybody from Mega Room, we really don't have the need to go through it, I don't think. Unless you want to, it's the same thing, 5 tables is 1 round, enter the -1 if they're not wearing their pin. Same thing for the inquiries, at the end of each table, they have a chance to say whether or not they have an inquiry, it gets marked in the points box next to their points awarded. They're not addressed at that point in time, just noted on the score sheet, and they'll be addressed at the end of that phase for that group with the phase coordinator. And the team captains can sign off on their score sheets to indicate they're satisfied with their scores, rather than having to wait the full 30-minute period. And their score sheet looks like this. Very simple. And again, this information will be pre-filled out along with the team information at the top. And we're only doing 5 tables. So this second set, we won't address. Any questions for anyone? Have I thoroughly bored you to death?
Definitely did not bore anybody. Lynn, I would like to, if you're okay with it, email out your PowerPoint to everyone.
Yeah, I
that
have a
was-
couple of
Okay,
changes I want to make to it. Like I want to add a few things on the written.
sure.
That Chrissy brought up, very good ideas. And I'd like to clean up a couple of the sample pages that were just kind of thrown in there quickly and look really unprofessional. I
And we
apologize.
have a, our, competitor briefing is next Wednesday at 6:30. If we need to touch scoring again, I'm sorry, competitor
Okay.
briefing next Wednesday, I'm sorry. Maybe we could try it again on a Thursday if needed, but I think it's pretty good. Unless anybody has questions. I don't know how mega
Yeah.
room and stuff, but barn and classroom, yeah.
So this is my contact information. If you come up with questions, you're free to email me or text me. I'm not going to be where I can answer this weekend, but I'll be available pretty much all next week. And then, if you have any questions specific to the scoring during the quiz rally, or there's information you want to share in addition to one of your score sheets, feel free to text me. And on the day of the rally, I would say text because I'm not going to check my emails most likely. Just too many things going on.
I'll be watching her phone. She's going to be busy.
Okay, Christine Brown is just in here, so maybe it depends if or we want to do this next week.
Is she mega room?
She is.
Oh, we can address it quickly. I have
Christine,
a feeling that
Yeah,
Miss
I'm here if
Christine-
you have any questions. I sent you the answer sheets from last year if you need to look at them.
Did you email them to River Hills DC?
Oh, shoot. I can do that right now.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't, is it is an answer sheet that the kids actually like fill out, or where they make their selections, right?
Yeah, it's the one from last year. I need to switch out to the sections, but it's
Yeah,
going to be the same layout and stuff.
I didn't get to see it last year, unfortunately,
Yeah.
or I don't remember it. I did see it when we were scoring, but I don't remember.
Christine, we don't have like people designated for your volunteers yet in mega rooms, so we may have to revisit this. I think we have the volunteers for classroom pretty well defined, and barn and stations didn't seem too complicated either. So Ariel can probably handle that, but we might have to revisit mega room next week.
Yeah, that's totally fine with me.
Yeah, and you're like a quiz guru. You've competed enough that I think you're familiar with the scoring process.
Mhm.
You don't have any conferring for novices in your phase. There's no multi-part.
Well, I don't think there's any conferring at all for mega room with anyone.
But that's what I mean. You don't have any conferring
Yeah.
in your phase. So that's where scoring can get complicated.
Mhm.
So you don't have any of those issues. Your score sheet's pretty self-explanatory. The most complicated thing on your sheet is, are they wearing their USPC penny? Do they get -1?
So
The rest of
Christine
it is
Brown,
all
since
just copying data from your scoring from the tables.
Okay.
And Christine Brown, since you're here, we were talking about the 5 extra bonus points for the correct
Mhm.
attire. And it just is 3 simple things: the pin, a badge, and a penny number.
Yeah.
We ever see them add additional?
In the rule book, those are the 3 specific things that they list. So I don't think they've added any additional things, at least in champs, because they only list those specific items in the rule book.
Well, that just seems
Right,
like
but in
everybody
the
gets
rally
5 points.
organizers guide, I can't tell you on what page right now because I can't find it again, of course. It specifies what is the required attire for quiz.
Mhm.
So I'm just questioning the wording on this. So if the correct attire, according to the rally organizers guide for quiz, is a collared shirt, pants, shorts, or riding breeches, or breeches, sorry. And that athletic shoes can be worn except for barn, that type of thing. Shouldn't that be part of it also? Because that is the correct attire. It's more than just the armband, the pin, and the penny. It's the name
but-
tag.
Yeah, but for the bonus points, I don't know. I haven't looked at the organizer's guide. I was just going purely off what was in the rally manual. For a
Right.
regional rally though, I feel like if you want to add those, you probably can. They just won't be having it at championships.
Got it. I wish I could find that. I can't find it now. All right. Well, if I have any questions on your answer sheet, I'll just email you directly, if that's all
Yeah,
right,
that works for
Christine.
me. Yeah,
And I don't think I need to go and explain to you what all of these columns on your score sheet mean.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you understand.
yeah, I've done it before, so I think I have a pretty good feel for it. But if I have any questions, I'll email you as well.
Yeah,
And
I
you
did have my where did it go? My contact information, if you want to take a note. During
that'd
the
be great.
competition, if you have any questions on scoring or whatever, this
Mhm.
is my phone number. If you would text, that would be grand. I don't think I'll check email during the rally. And then if you could send me your contact information too, so if I have questions on the scoring, Chrissy and I don't have to run around the property like chickens trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And
Do you
Lynn-
know if we will have self-service at the property that we're using this year?
Oh, yeah, you will.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, this is in the middle of town. And Lynn, I'm gonna give you that list with everybody's cell number and email anyway,
Okay.
but,
Good.
so that was my plan. Shoot, no, of course I lose it. All right. Oh, there it is. Let me go to competitor attire, page 10 of the book. That's what I was pulling up. Shirt, yep, collared shirt, pants, short skirts. I'm going to make sure we at least provide that. You know, they've got shirt,
So did
pants,
you find it?
footwear.
I wasn't finding
Yeah,
it.
it's page 10 of the quiz competitor. The rule book was
Oh, so it's in the rule book, not the rally organizer's guide.
correct. Correct.
That's even better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally in the rule book. It's on, like you said, page 10.
Yeah.
And it talks about even the felt color, if they have to look at the felt color, things like that.
But there's no extra points for the felt color that I saw in quiz. Is that correct, Christine?
But there is a chance I saw at championships.
When I was
I thought I
reading
read
through
that they'll
the
give you an extra
Riz
point.
rule book, for at least for just the quiz appropriate attire, it just listed having the pin, the medical armband, and the penny number. Those were the things they were checking to get those 5 bonus points.
Oh, I don't even
I know
remember.
at the dressage rallies and stuff, they would give you a bonus points if you had the felt color.
Yes,
I wasn't sure
absolutely.
if that occurred during quiz as well. I'll go through the rule book tonight and check.
I
I just don't
not,
remember I don't remember reading that specific rule. It could be in there. I just need to review it.
Christina, I honestly
don't-
wouldn't go looking for it. It's fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I
went
remembered
through there. and
reading
I
No,
did.
someplace
I don't
that
think
champ,
it
they
is
will give you
bonus
extra
points.
points for that.
Right. Yeah.
Chrissy, I have a question for you.
Okay.
It's about quiz and general equipment and things they have available, and this is in the rally organizer guide. It says have a current horse management handbook and newsletter. Now, is that just for you to have on hand? The competitors don't need that, do they?
Because this is my thought, is because they are not, they don't have a tack room and they don't have anything. I think that would be something that we would have to have in my trusty dusty little notebooks, that we would
Right.
have one in each one. So that's what Lynn and I were talking about, that we're going to have that. I have all the books and all the handbooks and all the rules and things, and they're all in little stuff. So I will just have them in the little pocket in the front. So I don't,
Okay.
at quiz, I think they just kind of, ta-da, we just show up and off they
Right.
go.
Right.
Right,
But
and they're gonna have access to the library that Nancy's gonna be sitting with.
Yes.
I mean, that's there for their reference as well.
Yes. So that will all be in all the books that I just put back together. And then when I'm in a, with all the fun stuff that I've been receiving, it's like Christmas. I will be putting together
So
more notebooks.
So you
So-
answered my question that I asked Nancy. So it sounds like her table and her reference materials need to be in the foyer if you want
Yeah, I mean,
access.
it'd be silly for it to be with us. And, I printed out some.
I was gonna put it in the big room, but I don't want people in the big room unless they're
Yeah,
in a
no.
phase.
It absolutely needs to be somewhere where it is accessible.
Okay.
And, and if it's reference, it should be like the library. So,
Right.
yeah. So, but no, Lynn and I already talked about, because I said, oh, I'm going to print all the news, I'm going to call them newsletters. And, Lynn's like, I can do that. So Lynn and I are going to have fun after she gets home from her big weekend. And then with the rain coming, I'll have free time and we'll be able to, put this all together. Plus, I don't think, Lynn, you and I can go together because I think we need my truck.
We have too much stuff.
I think maybe we need 2 trucks. Well, you drive the red one and I'll drive the tan one, and we'll get all of this huge amount of information down to Quiz.
Yeah, I said the same thing to myself today. I said, we can't ride together. We
No.
need more, we have too much stuff.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but thank you.
Oh, no, it's fine.
My
That's
whole 2 back rooms are going to be packed up and put in the trucks. But yeah, no, seriously, if you want to, we'll just take 2 trucks.
Okay, I don't mind driving a truck if you don't mind me driving your truck.
I don't care.
I mean, if I can get it all in my car, it gets much better gas mileage. But we can figure that out next week when it's raining. We have nothing else better to do.
Right.
Right. Perfect.
So, Lynn, it's more for me. I have some other questions just in general. How come written is on the same score sheet as,
I don't know.
how do you
I
get
think
those?
they were
How do you get them together? How does,
we're not going to use these for posting. This is just for transferring the data to the scorer, to us.
okay,
This is just how each phase gets the information to us, right? So I'm
Yes.
just going to print that specific sheet twice, once for the
Got
written
it.
phase,
Got it.
once for the
Okay.
station guys.
Oh,
Okay.
you're so smart. So smart.
And then we'll have 2 of those for each kiddo, one with written information on it, one with stations information on it.
Yeah. And then it's more for me for formatting, just curious. That's a lot of printing you're doing with all of the phases and everything. Are you using labels or are you actually printing on the forms itself?
Well, I was gonna do labels. And then today, when I was doing the barn stuff, I don't know if you noticed, I actually had their names and all typed into the form.
I did. I saw
And
that.
it was really pretty easy. And then I was thinking maybe I could merge the data in a Word document. And that's kind of why I kind of did my little squirrel rabbit trail trick, which I think is why I ran out of time to get all the decent looking forms uploaded into the
No, I think
presentation.
it's
But
great.
but I'm either gonna print labels and stick the labels on there, or I'm going to merge the data in and have them and print the individual forms. I haven't decided yet. That's a next week problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
'Cause
thank
she's
you.
smart like that.
I would like to have them printed on the form rather than having to handwrite it all. Or the
Yeah.
names. I mean, obviously the team stuff is gonna be a label. That's a no-brainer. That doesn't have to be filled out in the pretty little lines. It can just be on the sheet. But the names, it would be helpful if it lined up in the spaces when they're going to score. So. But these are what my daughter would call future Lynn problems. This is not a
Well-
now Lynn problem.
It's a lot of work and I'm not sure. I know last year you did the labeling and stuff for us, but the years before that, we're filling in the stuff on the spot.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, you don't want to do it on the spot. That takes way
I
too much
agree.
time and there's too many chances for mistakes.
Absolutely, but yeah, right. Thank you.
Oh,
Let me,
Chrissy, you have,
Yes, ma'am.
more of these, right?
yes,
I have all the ones
Okay.
that Nancy sent me.
yes.
Okay, cause I had 4 left over from last year, so I already have these filled out.
Okay.
I just need
Well,
to do it for the other.
I'm bringing my HMO scoring box along with my,
Okay.
like I said, the back half of my house. And
Well, I'm planning on coming and living at your house for a day or 2. next week.
you know, you're always welcome. You can dig through all the fun stuff in my 2 back rooms. So no,
Right, but I
it's
figured that would be, I've got things to 3-hole punch and I haven't printed any of your newsletters yet because they're all still 2023. And then I
Right.
figured, you know what, most of them aren't gonna get updated, so I might as well go ahead and print them.
yeah.
And then we can always print the
And I
new
may,
one here if we have to.
you probably don't have to do dressage and you may not have to do show jumping. I'll have to look because I unless I threw them
They're
away.
usually just one piece of paper, so it's not that big
Yeah,
a deal.
it's just one piece of paper and I may have actually thrown them away when I was redoing all my books for this year. So I'll look. I'll look tomorrow.
I'll
So,
just do them all.
Christy, when
Yeah.
you do the rally organizer guide or whatever, do you just do it like I emailed it out with specific to quiz, or do you include all the other disciplines?
Okay, say that again.
The rally
I missed the
organizer guide,
beginning. Yeah.
I sent it to people just specific to quiz with the section 1, that's the generic, and then section 7. I just don't think you need to give that whole big stuff to everybody. So
Oh,
Yeah.
for what you want to put in each one of the
Oh, we can
Bye.
stop recording.
oh,
We don't need
Thank
to
you.
record anymore.
no.
yeah, no, for the now I know what you're saying. Yeah, I would definitely just